Hey guys. So I was not planning on filming today. Today is Sunday as I'm filming this, and a video just went up today, and I usually take like a day to rest, but I was in my plant room and I was kind of just going through checking on plants that needed water and like checking for new growth and stuff, and like so many things were exciting to me that I was like, let's film a favorites video. We have light, let's just pull some together. So I had gone out for a walk, and well, I call it a hike because it was uphill and I feel really greasy, my hair's gross, but you know what? When the mood strikes to make a video, you make a video. I don't really know what to call it. Is it a March favorites or February favorites or just current favorites? But I picked out a bunch of plants that I don't talk about often. I guess historically not been like my favorites, like my all-time favorites. So you're not gonna see like something like the Dark Phoenix, but something that's just I'm particularly enamored with at the moment. And looking at these plants, this is gonna be a very anthurium heavy video, so hopefully you're into anthuriums. But without further ado, let's just get started with the first one. All right, so this first one, I would probably say this is one of my all-time favorite anthuriums of all time. Favorite anthuriums of all time. I just don't talk about it that often on my channel because the one that I have it doesn't grow fast and it hasn't done super well for me, but lately, I think he's making a comeback. So this is my Anthurium Avicii narrow form. I think I've had this for over 2 years. I think I got it in 2020 sometime, and it just put out this leaf that, oh my goodness, I am absolutely enthralled with this leaf. This is everything I want in Avicii. Some of you might remember this plant from the pop socket debacle. Well, it's not really a debacle, but you know those like pop sockets that they made with leaves? The Avicii is this plant. They stole that photo from my Instagram. They never asked me, they never credited me, and they don't credit anyone, to be fair. This is the plant that they stole the photo from, and I think the leaf that it was is no longer very cute. This is the leaf that they took the photo of. So if you ever see the Avicii one, just know that it's this leaf. This is the leaf they should be pop socketing. I don't think that the Avicii is often sold because for some reason, the Avicii pop socket is like freaking massive. Like the pop sockets are normally like this big, but the Avicii one from the photos I've seen, I don't own it. Like they should have sent me one, to be honest, but the Avicii one looks huge. And whenever I see like sellers selling the pop sockets, it's very rare that the Avicii is in there, which is totally fine by me. Over the Christmas holidays, like one of my Christmassy repotty videos, I repotted this from soil. It was like a really chunky, barky aeroid mix into a soil / tree from fiber mix, and it freaking loved it. It rooted really fast. These roots that you'll see on the side, I think pretty much happened within the first week or so, and it's got roots kind of like, I don't know if you can see, kind of poking out the top here, and then immediately started pushing a new leaf. All the plants that I potted into that mix, that tree fern fiber soil mix, I think mostly have been anthuriums. They've all rooted really well. They all started pushing growth, minus the King of Spades. I'm going off on a bit of tangent because this substrate mix has been also kind of like a favorite of mine. But yeah, I really liked being in that very fluffy kind of, I think it was about 50-50 tree from fiber to soil mix. And then this is the biggest leaf that it ever pushed in my care. I think when I first got it, it had grown a couple leaves in that first year, and they were sizing up and they were looking really nice, including this pop socket leaf. But there was a period of like at least a year, maybe a year and a half, where it just wouldn't push growth, or the growth that it would give me were quite small leaves. Like this is a fairly recent leaf on this plant. The leaf prior to this new one was this one. So it's like very ribby, but really small. And this is like nowhere near done. It's still really floppy, and the leaves on the Avicii, they expand really slowly. I feel like it takes like a month to fully harden. It's kind of similar to the luxurians. They grow and expand so slow, but I love this leaf so much. I cannot wait until it's big, if I can ever grow it to that size. But those, like, you know, the big narrow form Aviciis that they have at the in Singapore, the cloud forest by the bay, Those photos, when I see those photos on Instagram, like on my Explore page, I get so lost in them because there's just something about this leaf. It's just so beautiful. And the emergent leaves are like kind of bronzy. It's got a bit of like an orange tint to them, especially like on the backside. You might be able to see that tint. It's just such a beautiful, almost like a pukey green, chartreusey color. I really want to grow this bigger so I can chop it and give it to Amanda, because Amanda doesn't own Avicii for some unknown reason. I don't know why. If anyone can grow one to the size of those like cloud forest ones, it's Amanda. So I don't know if she'll get one before I get to chop mine, but if she doesn't get one, I'm definitely chopping mine for her because she needs this plant. Of all the plants, this is probably my most favorite this month. Look at that insane ribby, ugh. This plant hasn't come down in price that much. I think when I purchased it from, I believe it was Equigenera. It might be wrong, but it was $100 US on the price list. Lately, Charmaine just got one from the Equiflora pop-up with Lauren, and hers was like a small size. Hers was $55, although the bigger ones I think were like $85, $90. So it hasn't dropped in price the way that a lot of other plants have dropped. Like for example, the Patricia used to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and now it's like $30. I think it probably has to do with the fact that it grows pretty slow. I don't think they're that easy to pollinate and self them. I'm gonna put a photo in of a Avicii inflorescence because they're so cool. That color, and they're so like fat. I really want to grow this plant to flowering size just to be able to see the flower. I don't even really want to like breed it or anything. I just want to see that flower and just enjoy it. And I'm very curious to see what it smells like. So of all the plants I'm going to show you today, this is definitely my favorite. The leaf that I'm the most excited about. All right, I think we got to move a little bit faster because we're losing light. This next one you would have seen recently, but I am so smitten with it, I had to include it. And that is my newest acquisition, I think. My newest acquisition? Yeah. I imported this at the Equiflora pop-up at North Shore Tropicals last month. I am so glad I found this plant. I was not even looking for a Politiflorum. I was very happy with my plant. It's been growing so big and it's been growing so steadily. The newest leaf is probably like, it's definitely longer than my arm, and it's really, really girthy, really thick. This one though, I think I always wanted a very narrow Politiflorum, but I wasn't consciously looking for one, and yet here she was, and it's just so dreamy. So I potted this in a tree fern fiber slash like a perlite heavy pond mix. So it looks like this, and it's been rooting pretty well. It's still sitting in the bin that I my little import bin in my plant room. It's kind of like, it's an enclosed IKEA bin near to some grow lights. So it's getting very high humidity. One of the aerial roots that I pushed out here started rooting into the substrate. I had no fears over acclimating this plant because Politiflorum is just such a trooper. Even if it gets pissed off and you like rot off all the roots, it's pretty easy to get it to come back. It's definitely a plant that I feel wants to survive. I just can't wait for this one to start growing. Although I'm a little bit nervous to see like what the leaf is gonna look like. If it doesn't look narrow like this, well then I still have a Politiflorum that I love, but I'll be pretty sad. But I feel like it will kind of persist with this. I think there's like narrow form and then like a normal form, and the narrow form kind of stays like this. But I also feel like a way that you could induce narrower leaves could be increasing the light. I haven't personally like checked light levels on plants that I have that are, what am I trying to say? I haven't personally checked the light levels on plants where my plants, one more time. I haven't personally checked light levels on some of my specimens that have the tendency to throw narrow leaves. There. So now that I have the LTH meter, I can check those light levels. Like I've mentioned a few times before, I have certain plants that have a tendency to grow narrow leaves versus some of my friends who get like a wider, rounder growth. Like for example, my gloriosums tend to be a little bit like sharper. My dark phoenix is a little bit sharper, not as like wide. So I could maybe like cross check this with some of my friends' leaves, but all that to say, hopefully it continues to throw narrow leaves, but oh my gosh, I am so happy. This is one of my favorite imports in such a long time. And I can't wait to like kind of get it potted up in a really nice pot and get it on my shelf. Oh, such a dreamy plant. Couple more anthuriums. These are little seedlings that I grew from seed. I've been especially in love with them lately. So these are Anthurium magnificum crossed with Ace of Spades. These were grown from seed. If you're in Canada, a lot of you would probably have plants grown from that same seed batch. So I bought two. I think these were germinated like at the very beginning of 2022 or at the very tail end of 2021. So I've been growing them for a year and a few months. So they're not humongous, but okay, so I mentioned in my last video where I was like saying the fact that plants grow from seed is always going to be very just awe-inspiring to me. Just, I guess, it really just grounds you, I feel like, when you think of life and how it kind of comes from almost nothing. So, I mean, growing plants from seed it definitely inspires that kind of feeling in me. And then just looking at these two plants, they look very different. So this is the newest leaf on like my bigger one that has a tendency to grow more round leaves. It looks more like a magnificum in my opinion. The leaf before it is this one. It's also really dark and just pretty. It has a bit of that like Ace of Spades lobe, but yeah, this one is definitely a more robust grower in terms of sizing up. But this one is more my favorite. Like if I was to get rid of one and keep one, I would definitely pick this one because it looks so much like an Ace of Spades. And look just how beautiful it is. Of all my seedlings, these are probably the most reliable growers in my opinion. They've been really just fuss-free. They don't rot. They've been upsized, I think twice. They're already ready for a repot. If you can see, the roots are just really super full. Look at that one. This one definitely wants to be in a bigger pot. This one's probably more urgent. Once this leaf hardens, I'm gonna get into a bigger pot, but I love them so much. Both of them are growing in pond. They get fed with every watering with TPS1. I think I could probably say the same for all of my plants. And yeah, they grow in my tent. They seem super happy with the lighting that they get. They get a 10-watt Verena light above them and they're able to stay like super dark. I can say they're like kind of almost graduating from like the seedling category. And I love them so much. And then for comparison, I wanted to show you the next plant, my pure Ace of Spades. I don't think I've shown this plant on my channels since this leaf fully hardened. I don't think I even showed it in a video since it was like a really tiny, like freshly emerged leaf. But look at this newest leaf. This leaf has single-handedly brought me, I don't know, how do you quantify it? 10 gallons worth of joy per day since it fully hardened. It's so dark. It looks like an Ace of Spades now. Like it's undeniably an acey ace leaf, and I cannot wait to get this to grow a little bit bigger. The leaf prior to it was this one. So that was during like my Azamax like rage treatment, and it kind of damaged some leaf tissue, and it doesn't seem like it hardened properly. And then this leaf was just so perfect. It's so perfect. So let me show you this plant next to the more acey hybrid. So here they are together. They look very similar. So like this leaf with this leaf. You can definitely see the ace parentage in this one. The way the lobes kind of curve inwards towards each other. And then that like Ace of Spades red sinus. Although in fairness, Magnificum can also have a red sinus, and redness can be a Magnificum trait, but on this, with the leaf shape and the darkness and the color, it reads ace to me. And also the petioles on this one, you can see are quite round. They're not completely round, but they didn't take on like the very square Magnificum petiole. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see these two side by side because this one has such an ace heavy influence. I'm still in awe that I have this in my collection because it's not I've said it before, it's not a plant that's like in my pay grade. So the fact that I have this, I can only, obviously there's nobody else to thank but Amanda, and she is so kind and she bestowed upon me this beautiful, beautiful plant. But yeah, there's not much for me to say other than that it's kind of fulfilled all my hopes and dreams. 3 more plants. Let's get all the anthuriums done. So there's one more. This is one I don't talk about a lot. And I don't think it's like one of my all-time favorite plants of all time. Why do I keep saying that? All-time favorite plants of all time. But I do have a strong fondness for this plant. So this is also an Amanda plant. This is an Anthurium Carib Queen. So it's a hybrid of, I don't remember what the order is, but rugulosum crossed with Rio Guanche Dressleri. And it's very rugulosum heavy, as you can see by the leaf texture and all the little bumps. This plant has been so chill since I got it. I wasn't really sure what to expect because rugulosum and Dressleri are not known for being very easy plants. They're known for being really finicky. It's the Dressleri especially. It's one reason why it's not on my wish list, because everybody says that it's just such a bitch to grow. You need such precise conditions, and the people that are able to grow it successfully share, you know, the ways that they've been able to grow the plant, but people aren't necessarily able to achieve the same things by replicating conditions. So all that to say, I kind of expected this one to be maybe hit or miss in terms of ease of growth, but it's been like a very easy plant in general. There's one leaf that got crisped. This is from Azmax damage. Again, like I said, I went through my whole tent and just sprayed everything down aggressively, and it did do some damage. This one actually came to us as a chunk with no leaves. And then one leaf emerged in Charmaine's care before we slapped each other with tortillas to divide them up. And then since then it's grown 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves for me. But I am so in love with this new leaf. It's starting to look like a Carib Queen. And to me, I feel like the Carib Queen it's super rugulosum heavy, and you can only really see the Dressleri by looking at the pattern of the venation and kind of the shape of the leaf. But I don't know what it is about this plant that I've been like very just drawn to lately. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that it's like sizing up really nicely. So like from nothing to this size, and this leaf is probably gonna be bigger than this leaf. And I think also the petioles are a big draw for me. So Dressleri has really cool petioles. Are they like 8-sided? They have a lot of angles. It looks like, I don't know what to compare it to, but it has just like, if you were to do a cross section, it would look like a starburst kind of thing. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you this petiole. So it doesn't have as many sides, but it does have a lot of angles to it. But yeah, I haven't shown this plant in a little while, so I thought I'd show it this time because I have lots of love for this plant right now. Looking forward to the point where it gets big enough that I can chop it again for Charmaine, because I think she's gonna enjoy this plant as well. You know, eventually all the plants that we tortilla slap are gonna be shared between each other. So it's one of my goals this year to kind of get those plants big. Whenever I go into my tent, the seedlings are the ones I kind of like zoom in on and like make sure they're all okay. So hopefully that level of, you know, love, care, and attention will kind of trigger a growth response from them. But since I started using TPS1 as a fertilizer, and also in conjunction with Great White, the size up on a lot of the plants have been so much more impressive than in previous years when I was kind of relying on like not Myco and Myco but not Great White, and also like other fertilizers. TPS1 has, like, that combination of TPS1 and Great White has been like really great. I would recommend it to anyone. Okay, so one last look before we move on from anthuriums. Such a cutie. Okay, so believe it or not, this next one is an alocasia, and it's not the Frydek. This is my alocasia Sandriana Nobilis. She's back. She is back with a vengeance. I am so happy. So I showed this in a favorites video sometime last summer, and I was really happy with it. And at that time it was growing in like a very like cocoa husk heavy soil mix. That was like the mix of the cellar. I knew I wanted to get it into pond, so I did a lot of pond transitions for alocasias in and around that time, and then they didn't love it. So this one started to die back. I was really sad. This is the leaf that I grew, which was a huge size up. And I was like so in love with this leaf, but this has been slowly yellowing and drooping off for like the past 6 months. It's been a really long time that it's been like kind of holding on by a thread. But this leaf emerged just about a week ago. I was just so, I guess not relieved, because I knew it was gonna come back, and because I could see the roots forming, but I was just so happy that this plant is finally acclimated to pond and it's decided to grow in pond. Let's just show you what the roots look like. So it's definitely been a process. I feel like maybe what I learned through that whole alocasia episode is that if you want to transition alocasias from not pond to pond, I think it probably needs a in-between step of just water, and let it grow some water roots and then get it into pond. I mean, I haven't personally done that yet, but a lot of you have recommended that step, like the intermediate water step, to me. And I trust you guys, but that would be what I would do next. I wouldn't go from soil to pond unless I was definitely okay with it dropping all its leaves and kind of growing back from the corm. But this is such a cool alocasia. If you like alocasias and you can get your hands on one of these, I highly recommend them. They're so rewarding to grow, and I think they're a little bit less finicky than a similar alocasia, which is the Jacqueline. If you're into these like kind of weird, you know, shapy shapes, this one is such a cool one. And it has a really nice purple abaxial, which looks very like aubergine in color. Look at that. I think this leaf will get a good amount bigger because it only just fully unfurled. If I were to choose 3 alocasias that are my favorites, it's the Frydek, the Scalprum, and this one. And it's not just because this is my boyfriend's favorite plant, because it is his favorite plant. We got it because he loved it, but it's quickly grown into one of my favorites as well. Look how cool it is. It's so glossy and dark and just, oh, so cool. I will say though, I think this is one of the alocasias that's more of a long petiole one. It does grow quite tall. So I feel like that can be like a pro or a con to some people. A lot of people like to have alocasias in the background to kind of like have some height behind some shorter plants. Like an alocasia that wouldn't grow such long petioles would probably be like the Scalprum, could be like a nice foreground plant. But anyways, looking forward to plenty more leaves this year. Glad you're back. Please don't ever go away again. Last plant, well, you can kind of see it. I don't show this often on my channel, but I am very proud of how far this plant has become. My philodendron tortum, here she is now. I love this plant so much, but I don't talk about it that much. I think because it's been so reliable, the expectation is that it's just gonna keep growing and keep sizing up and get bushier and bushier. Like I don't really think about it all that much. I guess because I just gotten used to it performing so well. But since I inoculated this plant with great white, I'm telling you, it just blew up in a way that I could never get it to grow pre-great white. I finally had to repot it out of like a 4-inch pot. I think this was also maybe like one of my repotting sprees over the holidays. If you want to make your plant look bigger, just upsize the pot. Honestly, like after repotting it, I felt like it was like 3 times bigger, this plant. This one is just in like my soil mix, no like tree fern fiber or anything. And this grows in my tent. It's getting a little bit too big for the tent now, which I'm a little bit concerned about, because I don't really want to grow it outside of my tent, to be honest. I think this looks really great inside my tent. Maybe if Charmaine has to evict hers from her greenhouse first, because I think hers is quite a bit bigger than mine, then maybe she can be the guinea pig, and then she can say the coast is clear to grow the tortum outside of a greenhouse, and then I'll feel okay doing it. But for now, I am too scared. I don't want to mess up its growth, because to my knowledge, warmth is so important to the tortum. I read a couple of Facebook threads where they were convinced that like there was a rodent or a cat or something chopping off their tortum leaves. So their tortums would be growing in like an outdoor greenhouse. Like let's say they live in Florida or something and there was a cold snap, and literally the tortum would just chop all its petioles off. So it will, I guess, I don't know what is happening on a cellular level, but cell death, like planned cell death right at the base of the petiole, all the leaves fall off and it's left with a stump. So I think more than just humidity to let these leaves unfurl, I think it really relies on warmth. And what's the warmest part of my house? It's my tent. I would like to keep it in there as long as possible. I kind of don't want to ruin the look of this plant by putting a moss pole on it. I don't know, like I feel like that would kind of ruin the look. It seems to be growing just fine without a pole. And I also don't see people pulling the tortum that much. I don't really know why. It wants to climb. It definitely has a climbing pattern. It's throwing out all these aerial roots. So it is looking to climb and it's not able to climb anything, but it doesn't seem to mind it either. I'm glad I'm filming in this room today because this would probably be impossible to see inside my plant room with the plants in the background. So yeah, here she is in all her glory. What a great plant. So our local nurseries sold these last year for I think $10. So I think they're gonna be making their way across the continent if you're in North America. If you're in Europe, let me know if these are kind of readily available, but I feel like they should be because they've obviously TC'd them. So yeah, this is my last plant on the list. It's not a favorite because there's like a particular leaf I love a lot. It's just when I don't pay attention to it very much and then I kind of step back and look at how much it's grown, it's incredible. If you can see, the leaves on the bottom are so teeny tiny. So these are the leaves I was growing before Great White. And then I'll show you the leaf. The first leaf after Great White would have been this one right here. So before that, the leaves were sizing up, but very slowly, like very small increments of sizing up. And then after Great White, it just jumped up like a little bit more, and it's just so good. It's such a good plant. And that is all of my favorites, my current favorites that are doing really well lately. They make me very happy to watch grow. I hope you enjoyed this quick and easy video. If you did, please remember to give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!